Welcome to Hull on Estates, a series of podcasts for the Canadian legal community dealing with issues and insights surrounding estate planning in Canada. Hosted by the lawyers of Hull and Hull, the podcast will touch on some key considerations when planning estates and wills. Now, here are today's hosts.
Hi, I'm Nick Esperbauer.
And I'm Jeffrey Skolthorpe.
Welcome to Hull on Estates. You are listening to episode number 729. And today, Jeffrey and I are going to be discussing the 11th annual conference of the Family Dispute Resolution Institute of Ontario, also known as FDRIO. And our firm is proud to be, again, a repeat silver sponsor of FDRIO's annual conference. And some of our listeners might hear that and think, okay, why is Hull and Hull sponsoring a family law conference? And really, it's because FDRIO is much more about just family law. It's about family dispute resolution. And there's a lot that we can learn about resolving estate-related family disputes from those who are practicing in other parts of the same world, dealing with separation and divorce and custody and access matters. And so I personally have co-chaired this conference twice in the past. Jeffrey is on his second year of the conference planning committee. Ian Hull has spoken at the conference a number of times. And so really our history with FDRIO goes quite far back, Ian Hull being one of the founding members. I'm currently the vice chair. And it's an organization that puts on some really excellent conferences. And we thought this might be a good way to introduce some of our listeners to what FDRIO is all about and what you can expect to hear about at the upcoming conference.
For sure, Nick. And I think first I just kind of want to start by talking today a little bit about the evolving landscape of professionals in family dispute resolution. And especially this, like Nick mentioned, this does apply to us working in the estates law field. And we need to develop these tools that go beyond the basics, whether we're dealing with high conflict sibling disputes, financial disclosure questions, or the emerging role of technology in our practice. These are all different sub areas that will be touched on at this conference, and I think is something that everyone in the estates field specifically can take away from this highly beneficial conference. So I guess we should start today by maybe giving an overview of the agenda of the conference to give our listeners a taste for what they can expect at the conference. So the conference this year is beginning with Rami Mooloo.
Sorry, just backing up for a second too, Jeffrey. It's on November 6th. So November 6th, 2025. It's happening at the beautiful Ismaili Center. I actually just went for a meeting last week at the Ismaili Center to check out the space, even though that's where we were last year as well. And it's a really nice space for an event like this. Lots of space to walk around, network, and a great place to learn.
No, for sure, Nick. It was, like we mentioned, it was there last year. It was a great conference. We're very excited to be back this year with a whole new slate of speakers that we're really excited about. So as I was saying, the first speaker of the day is Rami Mooloo, who he actually leads the Global AgaCon Coalition and Arbitration Board and has been recognized as one of the advocates of his generation and a global thought leader who was recently awarded the Swiss Arbitration Association's Global Prize for Advocacy. And his presentation is going to explore the role of mediation as a preferred mechanism for resolving disputes, especially family law disputes, and how the way in which we resolve disputes reflects the broader ethical principles we hope to live by.
I always find it really interesting, Jeffrey, to hear from members and leaders within these different community-based mediation organizations, because often the way that they see these disputes is through a different lens, and there's a lot that we can learn by hearing how they see these play out and tools that they find effective in part of the dispute resolution process.
For sure, completely agree, and obviously that stands to be a great introduction to the day's conference. Then next, I guess we could talk about the keynote speaker, which we'll be transitioning into as the next speaker of the day. So we're fortunate enough to have Justice Kerry Boswell speaking on the civil rules reform. And Justice Kerry Boswell actually, he was one of the co-chairs of the Ontario Civil Rules Review. So he's one of the architects of it. He actually wrote or assisted in writing the civil rules reform. So it'll be really fascinating to hear directly from him on how he sees these rules actually being rolled out when they come into effect, and his perspective on what went into shaping them and the decisions that were made as they were drafted and prepared.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that in particular. And I mean, our listeners will know there are huge changes coming to the civil rules, I believe, next year. And to hear a bit more about what motivated them and how we can expect them to play out, and including things relating to dispute resolution and mediation. And I think it's interesting that this is being featured in a primarily family focused conference. So the civil rules don't directly relate to them, and it'll be interesting to hear how they can be expected to impact those working in other parts of the profession too.
100%. I mean, those changes in those rules will affect all practitioners, and specifically us in the estates bar. So that's definitely a way that this conference does lean towards estate practitioners as well. So I guess next we want to transition into talking about the next speaker at the conference, who is Melanie Russell. And she's going to be leading a session on scrutinizing financial information versus reliance at face value, implications of underreporting on income under the guidelines. So this session will be a technical one, but it is relevant for estate professionals, especially when we have to deal with issues in estate planning, defendants relief claims, or disputes involving family-owned businesses.
This topic reminds me, Jeffrey, of a session we had at a past, forget if it was a FIGREO conference or FIGREO unconference, the less formal version. And it was a session reviewing Form 13 statements. And it was so interesting to hear from a financial professional, how they look at these and how they scrutinize them. And I always find I can learn a lot by listening to these business valuators and other types of financial professionals, because we look at numbers a lot. We're not mathematicians. We're not experts when it comes to financial forms. And so I love to hear and learn more about what we should be looking for.
I completely agree. I mean, it gives us a perspective into their world, which we can glean their perspective and use it to assist us whenever we come across any similar issues in our practice. So, I mean, that stands to be a great session. And I mean, learning from Melanie is always a pleasure. She's a leading expert in forensic accounting, business evaluation, and income determination. And then our next speaker of the day is a speaker who's directly in our role, Charles B. Ticker. He's a seasoned estates mediator, and he is going to be giving a deep dive into the emotional terrain of sibling disputes. His presentation, titled Competing Concepts of Fairness, will examine the causes of conflict among heirs and how differing perceptions of fairness, both in equal and unequal distributions, can lead to litigation.
Yeah, so it'll be great to see Charles at this year's conference. I know he attended last year. He's a friend of ours, and we're happy to have him back this year as a speaker. And also, as Jeffrey mentioned, we've got all new speakers this year. So, I mean, we've heard from Ian Hall in the past, which has been great. We had Dr. Ken Schulman speak at the conference before, and we're trying to have sort of some fresh faces at this year's conference, to have some new ideas, new voices, and to keep it new, keep it fresh. And looking forward to continuing on with that with Charles as a speaker, and also continuing on with the tradition of having some estate focused content as well.
For sure. And I mean, as Nick said, I mentioned Charles is a great option for that. He's been practicing in the estates bar for a long time. He's written a book on this presentation topic. So he really is a subject matter expert on this fairness issue in the estates bar, and it'll be great to hear from him at the conference. And then looking forward to the afternoon, we start with a session led by Charles Gluckstein, who will provide an in-depth exploration of how artificial intelligence is reshaping the landscape of legal practice, particularly within dispute resolution. And I think this is, in today's day and age, will be a really important session. Like the future of AI is now, and we all need to turn to it. I know us at Hull and Hull, we're very focused on AI and the integration of AI into our practice. And so it's good to see that it's also being pushed out because it is the future, and we can need to embrace it and learn about it and consider certain ethical issues around it. And it just needs to be top of mind, and we need to be consciously moving forward because, like I said, it's coming, it's now, and it is the future.
For sure, yeah. I don't think we can ignore the power of AI tools. They're really great, and any opportunities we have to learn more about their responsible use, I think are ones we should take, and looking forward to this session for sure. 100.
I completely agree. Charles is a thought leader in the AI field when it comes to the AI implication and the ethical implications of AI in the practice of law. So expect a great presentation from him. And then moving on to the final presentation on the agenda of the day. This will be presented by Julie Hannaford and Jeffrey Carpenter. And their presentation is titled Family Law at a Crossroads, Courts, Violence, and the Aluwali Decision. So this decision was a Supreme Court of Canada decision, and in breaking down the decision, the presenters will discuss what it means for the introduction of tort claims like emotional or physical abuse into family law, and then potentially how there could be ramifications in a state conflict. So, Nick, do you have any thoughts on their talk?
A couple. So at the time of recording, we haven't seen the decision yet. We're expecting it will come out before the conference. I think whether or not it does, it'll still be an interesting discussion about potential ramifications the decision has. And when it comes to an estates practice, I mean, some of us might see this and think, oh, this has no real bearing on what we're doing. But if you have a copy of Ian Hall and Susanna Popovic-Montag's Challenging the Validity of Wills, there's actually a chapter in there that deals with some of these family history related torts and the potential impact they could have on an estate administration. So that might be somewhere to look if you're wondering, okay, how are we possibly going to say this is relevant to people doing what we do? And I think it can be.
For sure. So I'm looking forward to hearing them discuss this case. So I hope, as you can see, this year's annual conference, the FIDRO Toolbox, Equipping Professionals for a Changing World, strives to, and I believe will, offer essential tools for estate professionals, whether you litigate, mediate, or advise, from the procedural rules reforms to financial forensics to AI to cross-cultural mediation. The issues and topics that are covered at this year's conference really can touch all areas of the estate's bar and your practice. So we really welcome you to join us on November 6th. Again, it's at this Melly Center, kind of northeast Toronto. And it'll be a great day of practical learning and lots of time for professional connection. So if you are interested, please visit fidrio.ca, that's FDRIO.ca, to register. And there you can view all the further conference details. There's a full overview of the agenda and the speaker bios that we touched on a little bit today. And we hope to see you at the conference. Both Nick and I will be there. It's been a great day in the past, and it will be a great day again in a few short weeks.
Yep. So as Jeffrey said, we hope to see some of you there on November 6th. If you're interested in FIDRIO and are unable to join for the conference day, please still feel free to visit the FIDRIO website, fdrio.ca, or to reach out directly to Jeffrey or to me. We'd be happy to give you some more information. And I think in a world where we all belong to so many different groups, and some of them tend to have the same members, a lot of other estate lawyers, which is great. We always love connecting with you as well, with our friends. But it's also nice to belong to an organization where we have different members who we wouldn't otherwise connect with, and we can really learn from them and exchange ideas and sometimes referrals. So we'd love to welcome you at FIDRIO too, if you have any interest in joining us there or at the conference. Anyway, until next time, I think that concludes our podcast, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining me. I'm Nick Esterbauer.
And I'm Jeffrey Stolberg.
If if you have any questions, please send us an email or visit our website. Thanks.
This has been Hull on Estates with the lawyers of Hull and Hull. The podcast you have been listening to has been provided as an information service. It is a summary of current legal issues in estates and estate planning. It is not legal advice, and you are reminded to always talk with a legal professional regarding your specific circumstances. To listen to other podcasts or to leave a question or comment, please visit our website at hullandhull.com. Our theme music is Upper Structure by DJ A Kid and is courtesy of the PodSafe Music Network.